Show them how it feels to lose what they love.
The House Tully sigil is a silver trout over a red and blue background. The two wavy silver lines make the fish appear to be leaping out of a river, evoking House Tully's region, the Riverlands. Like the Tyrell's Reach, the Riverlands are a fertile region, but they have very few natural defenses, which make them an easy target.
Unlike the North, we don't have the neck to keep invaders waist-deep in muck. Unlike the Vale, we don't have mountains with narrow passes easily defended by stable boys with slings.
Sandwiched between the northern Starks of Winterfell and the capital at King's Landing, with the Lannisters' home of Casterly Rock on their west, the Riverlands are the unwilling battleground in pretty much every major civil war in Westeros.
The Riverlands are and always have been the middle child of Westeros, caught up in every fart from one lord at another.
And they bear the brunt of the carnage.
They burned most everything in the Riverlands. Our fields, our granaries, our homes.
So this middle child of Westeros has learned to survive through making strategic alliances, usually via arranged marriages.
If you refuse, our alliance with the Freys is dead.
Matriarch Catelyn Stark, a Tully by birth, showcases her house's personality as she tries to broker partnerships and negotiate to help her son Robb Stark's army.
What does he want in return?
You will be taking on his son, Oliver, as your personal squire. He expects a knighthood in good time.
Going into Season 8, Catelyn, her sister Lysa, and her uncle Brynden, the Blackfish, are dead. But there is still one major Tully in play. Catelyn's younger brother, Edmure.
Edmure Tully, son of Hoster Tully, and the rightful lord of Riverrun.
After he was married to Rosalind Frey at the Red Wedding, he was taken captive by the Freys.
Why do you think the people who murdered his king at the Red Wedding would decide to let him come home? Because it's a trap, you idiot.
Now that Arya has wiped out the Freys, it's unclear where Edmure is, and he could factor into the climax ahead. While their lot is often tragedy, the Tullys represent the underestimated strengths of many a middle child. Adaptability, worldliness, diplomacy, family values, and sensitive emotion.
Killing Jaime Lannister would not buy life for your children. But returning him to King's Landing may buy life for mine.
So let's take a look at how House Tully and the much beleaguered Riverlands offer a different perspective than the other great houses on Game of Thrones. Instead of broadcasting their fearsome power, they take pride in their ability to go with the flow. And they remind us that when you're facing down enemies on all sides, it's important to get your priorities in order. Before we go on, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe and click the bell to get notified about all our new videos. When young Bran says the words of House Tully during his lessons,
family, duty, honor.
He draws our attention to the order of these three values.
Family, duty, honor. Is that the right order?
You know it is.
Family comes first.
For a Tully, family always comes first. Here, Bran is angry at his mother for being gone after he's recovering from the attack that left him without the use of his legs.
How can she protect the family if she's not with her family?
But his mother is away because she's trying to look out for the safety of her family. And Catelyn is the character who best illustrates what devotion to family truly means.
The love she had for her children, I was a little awed by it.
This woman is a mother to the core of her being.
My own mother died on the birthing bed when I was very young. It's a bloody business. What comes after is even harder.
We see her dispensing motherly advice in vain to the warring Baratheon brothers, Stannis and Renly.
If you were sons of mine, I would knock your heads together and lock you in a bedchamber until you remembered that you were brothers.
Even her one shortcoming as a mother, not loving the boy she believes to be her husband's bastard son.
So I pray to all seven gods, let the boy live. Let him live. And I'll love him.
Is something that pains her deeply.
All this horror that's come to my family, it's all because I couldn't love a motherless child.
She does everything she can to help protect and pull together her family.
What are we fighting for if not for that?
It's more complicated than that, you know it is.
Her noble actions are all the more heart-wrenching given that they're so futile, as she can't save her Stark children from being held prisoner and hunted down. She dies believing that all her sons are dead.
I wonder How many times did Bran or Rickon stare across the moors of Winterfell waiting for me to return? I will never see them again.
Even if she can't always protect her children, where Catelyn has truly succeeded as a mother is in how genuinely her children love each other.
I'm your brother. I have to protect you.
Right now, I have to protect you.
Instead of battling for dominance, the Stark siblings support each other, long for each other's victories,
And what do they say of Robb Stark in the North?
They call him the Young Wolf.
and display a tenderness when they're together. The love Catelyn has instilled in them is no small feat, as we can see here that in most powerful families, it's easy for siblings to put their competitiveness and greed over any affection.
I never loved my brothers.
In Season 1, Catelyn and her sister Lysa Arryn have a very interesting conversation about family.
Does family mean nothing to you? Family means everything to me.
Here we can see Lysa interprets family very narrowly to mean only her bond with her son, which she prioritizes far above any other family loyalty.
And I will not risk Robin's life to get caught up in another of your husband's wars.
In fact, we later learn she's killed her husband, and she's happy to abandon the rest of her family if they get in the way of what she wants.
My father, my husband, my sister, they all stood between us and now they're all dead. That's what happens to people who stand between Peter and me.
In vain, Catelyn calls on her sister to think of her extended family.
Ned rots in a dungeon and you speak of patience. He is your brother by law.
This is an important aspect of building a strong support network. If parents think only of their immediate offspring, that not only spoils and stunts those children,
I didn't ruin it!
but it's also short-sighted, as it teaches one's own children to only care about their immediate offspring, and eventually cast off those very parents who imparted the wrong values.
My mother's always had a penchant for drama. Facts become less and less important to her as she grows older.
So we can see Lysa's selfish, limited interpretation of family is a perversion of the value, just as her continued breastfeeding of her older son embodies a twisted excess of a certain aspect of family love.
Isn't he beautiful? And strong too?
While family comes first, the Tully words also include duty and then honor. These values support a healthy family. Because Lysa cares nothing for these, that explains her corruption. When Brienne of Tarth swears fealty to Catelyn, Lady Stark makes the point that she would never abuse this oath by asking Brienne to do anything dishonorable.
I shall ask no service of you that might bring you dishonor.
Still, duty and honor comes second and third after family in Catelyn's eyes, as we see, for example, when she releases the prisoner Jaime Lannister behind Robb's back in hopes of getting her daughters released.
Bran and Rickon are captives in Winterfell. Sansa and Arya are captives in King's Landing. I have 5 children and only one of them is free.
Others, like Ned Stark or Jon Arryn, might not put family above everything else in this way. At the very start of the series, we see Catelyn trying to convince Ned to choose family over duty, and turn down Robert's request to become Hand of the King.
I have no choice.
That's what men always say when honor calls. That's what you tell your families, tell yourselves.
Ned knows this choice is bad for his family, but feels he must do his duty all the same. We see that, from the family perspective, Catelyn was right to try to stop him from going. And Catelyn is right a lot in this story.
Walder Frey is a dangerous man to cross.
I don't think Bran fell from that tower.
I told you never trust a Greyjoy.
But sadly, this can't stop the snowballing of tragic events that befall her family. Red is the color of blood and love, which is fitting for this house that emphasizes the importance of blood relations. The fish is on top of the blood of the sigil, above the blue water, which might bring to mind the maxim, blood is thicker than water. The red of their sigil is reflected too in the family's signature red, brown, or auburn hair, which Sansa Stark inherits from her Tully mother.
But I'm half Tully.
The red also reminds us of the bloodshed the Tullys have endured. The Riverlands are the first to feel the pain when any northern-southern conflict breaks out, as we've seen throughout the series.
Sir Gregor will head out with 500 riders and set a Riverland on fire from God's Eye to the Red Fork.
The beginning of the War of the Five Kings is basically Tywin Lannister sending his son Jaime and the pathological mountain, Sir Gregor Clegane, to wreak havoc on the Riverlands, as a prelude to facing off with Robb Stark. While House Tully's seat is at Riverrun, it's also home to Westeros' largest castle, Harrenhal, which Tywin captures and uses as his base of operations until he leaves with most of his army to defend King's Landing in the Battle of the Blackwater. The Starks recapture Harrenhal, leaving the Boltons to defend it. Then after the Boltons and the Freys betray the Starks at the Red Wedding, Roose Bolton leaves the castle in the care of his man Locke, who later returns north. Later, Littlefinger becomes Lord of Harrenhal.
I declare that you shall be granted the castle of Harrenhal, with all its attendant lands and incomes, to be held by your sons and grandsons from this day until the end of time.
I shall have to acquire some sons and grandsons.
But after he's executed at the end of Season 7, Harrenhal is apparently without a lord or owner for the time being. While its size makes it a fearsome prize, the castle is in fact too big to defend without a giant army, and even the very productive Riverlands region can't feed an army of the size that's needed to hold it. We even get the sense that
Harrenhal is cursed.
The castle was built by the Ironborn Harren the Black when his people ruled over the Riverlands.
Harren the Black thought this castle would be his legacy. Greatest fortress ever built.
But as soon as Harren had finished building his giant castle, Aegon Targaryen came with his dragons to burn it down.
What kind of fire melts stone?
Dragonfire.
Harrenhal's appearance as a giant ruin, and the fact that most of what we witness there is the mountain torturing and later killing prisoners, adds to its foreboding feel.
What's that smell?
Dead people.
Almost everyone who's held Harrenhal in the show is now dead, so this terrible castle at the center of this region serves as a monument to all the dark carnage the Tullys and the Riverlands have suffered for as long as can be remembered.
When they was done, they butchered them as if they was animals. They covered our children in pitch and lit them on fire.
As shocking as the Red Wedding feels to us, Catelyn's fate is in keeping with the tragedy that has defined much of her people's history. Blue is the color of loyalty and fidelity. We might align the blue of their sigil with the Tullys' supporting values of duty and honor. Even though the red blood is on top, the blue occupies equal space, just as their words mention all three values. So these priorities must work in conjunction. As an echo of the Riverlands' water, the blue in the sigil also evokes emotion. The people of the Riverlands have shed tears for their lost relations, and Catelyn compels us through her strength of emotion in the story.
Do you want to see your girls again?
Silver reminds us of the moon, and by extension, the tides. So the color has mysterious, intuitive connotations, a feminine answer to the more masculine gold. Silver is linked to fluidity, feeling, and sensitivity.
You have courage. Not battle courage, perhaps, but I don't know, a woman's kind of courage.
We might also think of being silver-tongued, and the Tullys are skilled negotiators.
Lord Walder has granted your crossing.
Silver the metal is malleable, which makes us think of the Tullys' adaptability. Silver is a precious metal, but it's not the gold of crowns, and the Tullys have never been kings. When the Riverlords helped Aegon Targaryen defeat Harren the Black, Aegon gave House Tully the titles Lord of Riverrun and Lord Paramount of the Trident. The House Tully animal is the trout.
Fish. The sigil of House Tully.
It's a far cry from the intimidating beasts of other sigils.
Other houses chose dragons, krakens, and lions for their sigils. We Tullys took the trout, that most terrifying of fish.
In fact, most would look on a trout as little more than a tasty meal. So their animal acknowledges that the Tullys look like easy meat to the rest of Westeros. To behave like a fish is not to roar and breathe fire, but to go with the flow. The Tully sigil boasts of their ability to adapt. It acknowledges their vulnerability.
I haven't had a proper sword fight in years. I expect I'll make a damn fool of myself.
It shows a knowingness that if one is a little endangered fish in a tumultuous river, one survives by being smart, knowing how to navigate the water, and finding safety in numbers. Determined to stay alive and prosper, despite their lack of natural defenses, the Tullys have always maintained their position through strategic marriages.
While other houses fight with swords, House Tully fights with marriages.
During Robert's rebellion, Catelyn's father Hoster Tully married her to Ned Stark and her sister Lysa to Jon Arryn to solidify House Tully's bonds with Houses Stark and Arryn.
She confessed to me she never loved Lord Arryn. She did as her father commanded, as so many of us have.
In fact, before Catelyn married Ned, she was betrothed to his older brother Brandon. Littlefinger, who was her father's poor ward, fell in love with Catelyn and dueled Brandon for her, which got him cast out of the house.
Your Uncle Brandon, who handsome, arrogant, cruel Uncle Brandon. He almost killed Peter in a duel. And your mother loved him anyway.
But Brandon Stark, along with his and Ned's father Rickard, were put to death by the Mad King Aerys Targaryen. So it was only then that Hoster Tully promised Catelyn to Ned. It might be easy to forget that the Stark Lord and Lady have an arranged marriage, as over the years their bond has grown into one of steady and deep affection.
Love didn't just happen to us. We built it slowly over the years, stone by stone.
Catelyn falls back on her Tully assumption that marriage is a crucial tool in war, but her children are wolves, not fish.
I love her.
I know that seems important to you.
It is important to me.
Your father didn't love me when we married.
And these Tully tactics prove to be quite a disaster for the Starks. When Robb falls in love with Talisa,
and you're marrying her for a bridge.
An important bridge.
His reneging on his mother's deal with the Freys, if it isn't the full, real reason for the Red Wedding, at least offers the pretense and justification for the Freys and Boltons to turn to the Lannister side.
Things were different when Hoster Tully ruled the Riverlands. Well, we had good years and bad years, same as anyone, but we were safe.
Hoster's brother Brynden Tully also rejected the Tullys' assumption of arranged marriages. After he fought in the War of the Nine Penny Kings, he came home to find his brother had promised him to Bethany Redwyn, but Brynden refused. He became known as the Blackfish. He altered the Tully sigil, adopting a more intimidating trout, insofar as a trout can be intimidating.
Blackfish is a legend. His support will mean a great deal.
The Blackfish survives the Red Wedding, due to luck.
I need to find a tree to piss on.
And manages to take back Riverrun from the Freys for a time.
Lost it.
Yes, Father.
It's a castle, not a bloody sheep.
But the Blackfish is eventually killed when Jaime Lannister takes over Riverrun.
I've run before. In the Red Wedding, I'm not running again. This is my family home.
Since they do so often have to marry other houses and leave home, the trout on the sigil is a fish out of water, which is what we might say of Catelyn in Winterfell, even though she appears the image of the poised yet fierce Northern Lady.
Find him with every chain you can find.
Become a real she-wolf in your later years. There's not much fish left in you.
And gag him!
On some level, even after all these years, she still feels out of place.
All these years, and I still feel like an outsider when I come here.
The Tully's trout seems to be passing in and out of the water, and this house has a transitional feeling about it, a sense of being in between categories. Catelyn repeatedly reminds people that she's not from the north.
I remember how scared I was when Ned brought me up here for the first time.
Yet she's not as southern as someone from King's Landing, the Reach, or Dorne. Likewise, throughout the show, we hear the free folk north of the Wall say the Starks and the Night's Watch aren't really from the north.
All you lot from south of the wall, you Southerners. But now you're in the north. The real north.
So we see characters constantly defining themselves in relation to the others around them, only to have those definitions be questioned as their horizons broaden. The transitional Tullys understand very well that we are always defined in relation to others.
I was still Catelyn Tully the last time I stayed here.
While we might feel bad for the tragic Tullys, we can admire the way they bring alternative strengths into play in a world that so often emphasizes only might and brutality.
It often comforts me to think that even in war's darkest days, in most places in the world, absolutely nothing is happening.
We might learn from the fact that these little trouts have managed to thrive for so long. Their underrated skills of adaptation, negotiation, and feminine intuition are far more powerful than first meets the eye.
It was Catelyn Tully, a woman worth fighting for, I'm sure you'll agree.
Hey guys, it's Susanna and Deborah, and we are The Take. So some of you support us on Patreon already, and we can't thank you enough for that. You are our heroes.
Meanwhile, if Patreon's not for you, or you don't feel like signing up, totally cool, you can also support us right here on YouTube now with a new feature called Memberships.
So if you sign up to be a member, you can get perks like seeing our videos early. Sometimes we give away free things like VIP codes for movies, special thanks on our videos, and more.
And then there's also and always our undying gratitude, because we can't do any of this without you guys and your support.
So if you're interested in becoming a member, hit that join button and check it out. Thanks for watching.